Hello, everyone. Good morning to Southeast Asia, good evening to the East Coast, and good afternoon to people here in Hawaii. I'm Miriam Stark, and I'm currently the director for the Center for Southeast Asian Studies, and it's my great honor to welcome you all to join us for this Spring 2024 Loose Southeast Asia webinar series. Our theme this semester is Decolonizing Southeast Asia Studies. We have a great organizer, Dr. Sopaya Chan, who's at Michigan State University right now. And we have phenomenal people to talk today on researching Southeast Asia, positionality, and fieldwork. We have as speakers Sarou Luang, who's a PhD student at Australia National University, Hilary Faxon, who's an assistant professor at the University of Montana, Apisom Intralawan, assistant professor at Luang University, Wiwik Dharmiasih, who's a PhD student here at Hawaii, and as our moderator, the great Dr. Udomluck Hoontrakul, or who's a lecturer of the Faculty of Sociology and Anthropology at Thammasat University. Thank you so much for all joining us, and I'm going to turn it over now to
Thank you, Ajahn Miriam, or Nekru Miriam. I'm Udomluck Hoontrakul, and I'm my great pleasure to be a moderator today. So I'm going to give an introduction first. That we are going to do like we are going to divide our seminar into three sections. The first one, I'll give the speakers time to introduce themselves, about their fieldwork, and then what is their field discipline and research area. And this will be a pretty short, approximately 20 minutes for this section. And then the second round, we will go to ask a question on how do our speakers respond to the question on decolonizing Southeast Asia, or how do they think about positionality in their research practice. And then during this time, if the audience want to participate in by asking a question, please type the question in the chat room. I guess, and our organizer will bring the question to our speakers, and then we will open the Q&A section in the end of our seminar. I hope this is fine for everyone. So I'll start first by introducing ask our speaker for Sarou Luang to give an introduction first for his own fieldwork and then his discipline, in order to let the audience know his background. Please, Dr. Sarou. Queen Sarou.
Hi, hello. Good afternoon from Canberra. So my name is Sarou Luang, and I'm a PhD student at the Australian National University in Canberra. As I'm now based in Canberra, I like to start by acknowledging and paying my respect to the Ngunnawal and Nantri people who traditional land I am speaking from today. So I come from the NGO background and I work in the field of natural resource management and rural livelihood development in Cambodia. So as a part of this introduction, I'd like to share a brief introduction about my research, PhD research as well, because I think it is very important for our next discussion in terms of research personalities and during the fieldwork. So I have a few slides here, so let me just. Sorry, wait, you see it? Yep. So my overall research, PhD research, is actually I want to learn how the indigenous groups in Cambodia, in the upland region of Cambodia, navigate their land claim among the different actor or land grabs among within their landscape. And so my research side is actually I have two research case study side. One in Cyprus and Dak Dam, which is located in very near to the Vietnamese borders in the northeastern part of Cambodia, in an upland region, frontier upland region. So so the indigenous population in my study is called Penong ethnic group. Historically, they have been living in that region for a long time, for centuries, actually even before the French colonization. You know, they have been living in dispersed settlement along the border without a fixed notion of boundary in terms of customary lands. So the Penong population in my study now considering as the indigenous group under the Cambodian land law. But they have been living through many difficult times. From the French time, the French also wanted to establish the land control over the territory of Penong in the upland region as well. And in some way, they have also local resistance or Penong resistance during the 1930 around that period. So, but the Penong because of the along the border, the Penong also were affected by the what we call the post dependent conflicts because living along that area, the Penong was also impacted by Vietnam War. So along the border was used, the Penong territory was used as the conflict zone between American armed force and the Viet Cong soldier at the time during the 1960 and the early 1970. And later on, during the 1970s, this is what we call internal conflict within the country. The Khmer, the genocide regime. Probably you heard about the Khmer regime in Cambodia as well. So the Phnom population were actually forced to move from their customary land to the lowland area in order to do the right cultivation as a part of the Khmer policy at the time. But then in the post-conflict time, the Phnom population, the Phnom territory become as soon, the state divide state divide what we call or categorize the Phnom territory in two different zones. So now, in one of my case studies, I here, for example, in Dak Dam, become a site of development zone in a way that giving the land concession to private company to grow the agribusiness or plantation. In some area, another case of my studies here, they were surrounded by a very plantation, a rubber plantation. Is actually all of them are Vietnamese plantation. But on the other side, the Phnom territories or the customary land was also categorized as a conservation zone. Government now implement the REDD Plus program, carbon forest scheme. And some of the area was also occupied by the lowland migrant, mostly from the Khmer dominant group moving to the upland region searching for land. So this is the Phnom now what they view the outsiders always coming to their region in the agenda to establish the land control, what I say. So as a researcher, I am also an outsider. So I actually try to work carefully to include the Phnom population or Phnom research participant in my research carefully as well to understand their perspective in terms of land securities and livelihood reorganization in the current context of land dynamic and land actors in their landscape. So I'm happy to discuss about how I build my relationship with the Penong population during my fieldwork. So I'm happy to discuss in the next discussion. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarou. So I think he give us quite clear on his positionality in terms of the outside researcher, and also he is a Cambodian, and he although he's not local, belong to the local communities, but this is very complicated situation. It is for some of Southeast Asian scholars who try to positioning themselves when working in the field. So we will come back to Sarou when in the section, in the second section. I think many people have a question about how he deal with this situation. It's complicated. So I'll go next for Wiwik, right? So Wiwik, this is your turn.
Aloha, everyone. Greetings from Hawaii. My name is Wiwik Dharmiasih. I'm a PhD student in Geography and Environment, and I also work at the Matsunaga Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. I'm from Bali, Indonesia. My experience as a researcher began after my undergrad, when I received an offer to work as a research assistant for a leading researcher from England who wanted to conduct water-related research in Bali. That was in 2010. I was interested in accepting the offer because where I came from in Bali, I live in a place where water was abundant. However, we begin to experience difficulties in accessing water. There are times where we don't have water at all. So I remember me and my siblings, my parents, we would stay up late at night just to collect water and store them in buckets so that we have water for the next day, because we don't know whether we're going to have water running on our tap water or not. So when I have this email from my previous advisor saying, hey, there's a researcher wanting to do research on water in Bali, I immediately say, yes. I just graduated, so it's a good opportunity. And I also want to know like why I cannot have access to water anymore, like what's going on the island. So after that experience, it led me to meet with other foreign researchers who were also interested in conducting research in Bali. One of them gave me the opportunity to join a team that submitted a nomination for the traditional irrigation water system in Bali, also known as the Subak system. It has existed for 1,000 years, and it received like decline in number because of the growing tourism industry on the island. So I was very fortunate at that time to be invited to be part of this team that write the nomination dossier of this Subak system into UNESCO World Heritage List. And from that experience, it led to my me being here in Hawaii pursuing my PhD on that topic. So when I took that opportunity to join the team to nominate the site to UNESCO World Heritage List, I was advised by other colleagues that it would bring more troubles instead of benefits of having the site protected. But as a Balinese, I grew up seeing rice field around my house converted into the development of a bypass, because they need to have a connection to the capital city on the island. So my positionality at that time was like, I want to know, I want to know how can I protect this rice field before it disappeared? And the whole idea at that time was Bali lose 1,000 hectares of rice field every year, not just because of tourism, urbanization, and all other factors, but it's losing. And at that time, I was thinking like, yes, protecting the site through UNESCO World Heritage Site will, eventually help save this traditional irrigation system. And after it was inscribed in 2012, I continue to carry out research regarding the changes that occurred after inscription. It also led me to carry some collaborative research and studies with international scholars. I just had a research together with scholar from Hong Kong University, making a comparative study between Subak in Bali and also the World Heritage, the Ifugao system in the Philippines. So, and also because of that opportunity, because that opportunity to work with foreign researchers, I was able to share that experience, to do field research also with my student, because in Bali, I also work at a public university, and to give opportunity to my student to also experience how to do field research. So yeah, and I'm very fortunate also in the last couple of years, not only involving students, but I also involving like local young people from local communities to also help doing the research, making them like also the researchers in the research project that I had. So that's for me, and I'm looking forward to our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Wiwik. So Wiwik gave us very clear that her positionality during her previous fieldwork is as the local scholars and a membership of the local communities who are working in the international team, try to protecting her own heritage, cultural heritage. So this is come from another aspect for me, like a different from Sarou, as you are part of Cambodian, but you're outside the community. But Wiwik is really a local, a part of the Bali member, right? And then her own heritage there, and then she's working with outsider. So this is like I want to see like in the second section how to respond to the decolonizing practice by dealing with this two position as a scholar and as a local. And yeah, next I'll go to Hilary Faxon. Yes, Hilary is here.
Thanks. Thank you, Thank you to everyone for being here, and to Sarou and Wiwik for your reflections. So I'm Hilary. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Montana now, and I also work in the sort of environmental sociology, geography field. Before I do want to show a picture from my fieldwork, but I'm just laughing because when my one of my research assistants during my PhD and collaborator went to study outside for graduate school, we always joked that I should be her research assistant for a while because people love to talk to me in the village because of how I look. So I was really reflecting on that, thinking about the ways in which being a white body in the space and speaking Burmese, but not like, I learned Burmese with a friend who's Burmese American. And when we walk around Yangon together, everyone thinks I'm a genius and she's an idiot, even though her Burmese is better than mine, because it's really cute when I speak like 4th grade Burmese. And then they look at her and like, what's wrong with you? Why are you not speaking properly as a Burmese American? So anyway, I'm happy to start this reflection, thinking across our different experiences in the field. Okay, so let me just show a few slides. Let me see. There we go. No, here we are. Okay, so my work broadly focuses on land and resource politics in Myanmar, where I've been working for a little over a decade now. And I just wanted to show this image of the type of landscapes that I work in. This is outside Kalay Valley in Myanmar, where sorry, everybody, hotel Wi-Fi is not cooperating. So I did about 26 months of research in the Kalay Valley with small farmers, both of the lowland group Ama and also an upland ethnic minority group, the Chin, to try to understand their experience of democracy and land reform. And so while I was there, I spent a lot of time doing interviews, and I participatory with women farmers, different ethnic groups, to understand their life on the land and how they make meaning on the land. So one thing I reflect on a lot in terms of my fieldwork practice is how that has changed since the military coup in 2021. So like a lot of folks from and working on and with Burma, the practices of fieldwork have become much more difficult and require new sorts of collaboration particularly because going to rural places is very difficult, not just for foreigners, but mobility inside the country, and research as a practice has become so much more risky and so much more difficult. So over the last couple of years, I've been involved in another participatory photography project with women farmers. And this time we're working remotely. The group is much smaller because sort of wide recruitment is no longer possible. So we're working with old trusted networks, friends of friends, relatives, and a group of, I would say, academics, independent researchers, artists from around Southeast Asia, from Myanmar, and from Western or Global North based institutions working together to tell these women's stories of life on the land after the revolution. So these fieldwork experiences, both in the field during my PhD and sort of in and out of the field in collaboration, trying to follow the same themes, as well as along the borders, are a big part of my research practice. So maybe I'll leave it at that. Excited to talk more as we continue.
Thank you, Hilary, for sharing your experience as an international scholar working in the Southeast Asia with, I guess, various minority group in Myanmar, right? Not just only one ethnic minority, right? When you're working.
Yeah,
so this is kind of international and kind of inter-ethnic relationship within Myanmar and local communities. So excited to hear more through. So next I'll go to Ajahn Apisom, Intralawan.
Hi, good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Apisom Intralawan, currently assistant professor at Luang University. So I born and raised in Chiang Rai. So I'm studying about the impact of hydropower development in the region. So let me share some screen so I can give you some a bit of the areas. So can you see my screen okay? Yeah, so Chiang Rai province is located in the northern region of Thailand, adjacent to Myanmar and Laos, and in the Mekong River Basin. So as a local resident here, and then did a PhD at University of Vermont. So I was looking for the dissertation topics, and I was thinking about studying and examining the impact of hydropower development in the area. So my positionality is shaped by my education background. Actually, I'm an engineer and turned into economics major. So my diverse background has given me an interest in interdisciplinary studies. So in my area, in Mekong River Basin, you know, the hydropower project was conceived long before in 1957 during the Cold War in this area by the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacifics. You know, and hydropower was seen as an engine of economic growth, you know, so to eradicate the poverty in the area. So there are lots of dam plants in the river basin here. Upstream now we have like about 11 dams, and then downstream we have 2 dams already finished, couple more under the construction, and couple more is under the planning process. But I want to give you some area significant, especially on the Mekong fishery, which I think it's very important. Like Mekong, it's second highest biodiversity in terms of fishery, that's second to Amazon, and then it's the largest freshwater fishery in the world. So account for about 20% of global productions, and many people, like approximately more than 60 million people, subsistence and participate on fishing and other related activity like fish processing. You know, fish also provide protein for poor and women and children. You know. And also, river also provide lots of cultural values. For example, we have lots of festival related to a river and water. But in the recent year, this region are growing economically. So this is a demand prediction, electricity demand predictions in the regions. You can see that by 2014 to 2040s, the demand for the electricity will be increased like threefold, for example. So in this region, they are looking for a way to for electricity productions, and dam was seen as a good source of electricity production. And you can see that the number of dam has been increased in the area significantly. So we have like Laos, for example, now have more than like 140 dams in Laos alone. And dam also bring, even though dam bring benefits, but there is some cost, environmental and social cost. This is a hydrograph at the Chiang San water stations. You can see that after the dam was built upstream in China, it's significantly altered the flow that needed for the ecosystem and the riparian community downstream. Because Mekong River rely on the flood pulse, we need to have a high water in the wet season and the low water in the dry season. And this picture taken by myself. I took this picture in a few years ago at the Golden Triangle area, and you can see obviously the color of the river are very different. One is very blue because of the sedimentation has been trapped behind the dam, and another one is brownish. You know, like the Luang River, it's quite have some nutrition and sediment inside. So my past work experience, I also partners with Michigan State University under the Mekong Well project. So we are working on amplifying the voice of the Mekong River Basin, and this is a project that doing in Thailand and also in Cambodia. I also working with many other international donors like Oxfam and Australia AIDS in terms of working on citizen science for climate mitigation adaptation in the Ying River Basin, which is the largest tributary river in my area. Also co-hosting some field trips for journalists and also for the students. So I'm looking forward for more discussions about the field work under this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn Apisom. So it seems like for me, in Ajahn Apisom's case, it's similar to Wiwik. So he's a local scholar working in the educational institution in the border zone, like Hilary working in the border zone. But then he worked with the global development project in order to manage a resource that not just exists in the border of Thailand, but this is the international border by the Mekong River that flows through China, Laos, Myanmar, Thai, and goes to Cambodia. So this is another complicated situation that you've been working with, you know, like not just one community, but several communities located in several national borders. So yeah, and I think we are now end of the first section, and I guess participant might already have some question in your mind, so you can start typing your question in Q&A, and I guess this tool is coming. But before I think I'll go to asking the speaker question in order to respond to our seminar on decolonizing. So we have set up 3 questions, but hope we can answer all, or if not, we can go to the Q&A and then like switch back to our question. But this is to let the audience know how you think about your practice and decolonizing means by you. So my first question is that what does decolonization mean in your field discipline or area? So who can go first? You can jump in for the speaker. Who want to respond to this first?
I can start. So I was thinking about the conversations that have been happening in Burma studies around decolonization. So maybe not my my discipline, but my subspecialty within Southeast Asian studies. And over the last few years, there has been a lot of conversation about what decolonization means. I want to, sort of highlight a few people who've written about it and maybe mention a few key points that I've been thinking about. So one is Chume Pine and Dento Ong gave a presentation and wrote an essay about the sort of tropes of the white Burma scholar. And I think maybe it's good to start by acknowledging the persistence of coloniality in these research relationships. Very early in my PhD, I was at a bar in Yangon, and another white American PhD student introduced himself to me as the first sociologist of Burma. So this was a really boom time when a lot of people were coming in the 2010s to study Myanmar for the first time without an understanding of the history of both local and foreign colonial scholarship on Burma. Of course, there's been a lot of people writing about Burmese society and how it works for a very long time. So on one hand, we have the persistence of these sort of colonial assumptions of knowledge and power. On the other hand, Therapy Then has a really beautiful essay in Critical Asian Studies, the blog, about the ways in which coloniality of knowledge persists within the Burmese Academy, and the ways in which folks she was working with at Yangon University insist on using sort of traditional Western theories, or there's a great sort of line about coloniality being a privilege that is easy to talk about, maybe at a place like the University of Hawaii or a Western American institution, a place like SOAS, which we were talking about on our prep call, but not really something that Southeast Asian scholars themselves want to or feel that they can engage with until they have recognition on an international stage and publication in international journals. So maybe we can also say something about the privilege of being able to be here together talking about coloniality and decolonization and what it means. And then third, Rose Metro has a really nice essay about what scholars from formerly colonizing countries can do as part of the conversation. And there are a lot of great points in there, but one that I've been thinking about a lot is encouraging students from Myanmar or from Burma to study other places and other things. So I'm actually quite excited to have some graduate students from Myanmar coming to Montana, and really curious about what will happen when they study indigenous land politics in Montana, a state with several sovereign indigenous nations who have control over land and resources in different ways. So maybe I'll offer those sort of perspectives from the Burma studies debate and conversation to get us started.
Sorry, I'm muted. So thank you, Hilary, for pointing up our discussion in the prep meeting. Like we try to bring speaker to response on that experience on what is it. Before we go to decolonizing, we should think about what is colonizing is, right? So one point is about the colonizing by is it dominant knowledge, dominant methodology, or even dominant power that control or regulate it or manipulate in our field. So I think this go to the second question in the Q&A, that asking about like how do we actively challenge colonial structures and power relations while building renew one accountable to the indigenous political and legal authorities. And then this is from Jess Montage, sorry if I pronounce it wrong. So it's very contribute to our discussion now. Like before we go to decolonizing, we should think about what is the colonizing framework that we have dealt with in our own field. So I think speaker our speaker can answer first. Like what do you think about the colonizing framework or knowledge that you think this is dominating your field? Yes. Maybe Wiwik or Sarou?
I tried. Sorry. So I mean, I'm thinking a lot, because big in terms of decolonizing research methodology, what we can call here, because as my research project is actually located in the Penang, the upland indigenous groups, I really put my how to say, try to be carefully in working with those group as well, and not to present my, as a Khmer dominant group going to the field work in the upland. They may see myself in different ways, so I pay much attention when I did my field work. Based on the Hilary talking about decolonizing, or from her experience and teaching, and working in Myanmar, etc. What I can see, what we call research, but the decolonizing research approach in our field is actually my field, for example. Research design, my thinking about research is, okay, it must start from the research design, implementation, the field works, and also a research analysis and storage the data. For example, if we're talking about try to integrate our decolonizing approach, we should also consider all process as well. So, but for me, I'm here as a young research, early research careers, and I'm a PhD student. I am really, what I'm working here is actually I develop my research question and my research methodology framework with the support from supervisors and before implementing the fieldworks. So what I'm trying to say here now is actually in the context of doing my fieldwork, I try to work hard in a way to employ some principle of decolonizing research in my research fieldwork practice, in a sense that create a space for dialogue, allow the indigenous community to direct location and topics through my research fieldwork. As a non-Penang person or non-indigenous person, I pay my respect listening to the stories of how the Penang people actually work to secure their land and reorganize their livelihood in the context of, dynamic actor in a land conservation, I would say land concession, plantation, conservation, the carbon scheme, and the lowland migrant who actually came to their area. So I'm growing up in a rural village. Although I'm from the Khmer dominant group, I'm not from the city. I know that land is very crucial for my family. I had my family to grow up, rice, vegetables, gardenings, and our space at home when I was young. And it's actually, I had very quick, how to say, I had opportunity to build a relationship with the Penang people very quickly, because it's actually, it could relate to my past rural setting. I have been living in the poor service infrastructure, or like Penang setting, like the indigenous setting, and they could actually accept me quickly. And there are also other several factors as well, because I used to work in the upland region, working with the different indigenous communities for many years as my past working with the NGOs. I mean, I have little, how to say, background in academic field work, etc. But from my engagement from the past, I really understand what we call the culture, belief system of my indigenous group communities who actually living in the upland. I am being mindful, and I often been invited by the Penang people to their sacred forest or spirit forest, and sometimes I was invited by Penang household to join the what we call ceremonies and offering at the village level, and it's allowed me to build connection from there. Another thing I like to really talk is also a kind of adaptability and a flexibility of doing field work as well. It's allow you to build a relationship and to understand the Penong or indigenous group in a better way as well. As a researcher, I'm sure that you all have, when coming before coming to fieldwork, you have, okay, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have kind of, this is my framework, this is my, you have some sort of dominant in thinking already in your mind, thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. But I think flexibility in doing fieldwork allow you to open your mind to really see this is what work well in the fieldwork, For me, I was before when going to my fieldwork, I was thinking, oh, I have to interview this person, I have to interview this households. I have a kind of mapping, planning to do thing, and I want to do group discussion for example, but I could not manage to do that because of one thing is about political tension as well. When I did my fieldwork in March, it's actually nearly close to the national, what we call commune election time, the local election time. And the government actually restricts the what we call gathering or meeting with the people at a village level because they are worried about that researcher can politicize the issue and make the difficult thing to the state or local state. But at the same time, the Penong population at my area, they are also busy. They were busy with their farming. Sometimes it's a bit difficult. I mean, most of the time it's a bit difficult to actually speak with them at their house, at their village. So actually, this kind of thing is actually allowing me to reshape or reshape my thinking about my research methodology. So actually, I decided, or actually, they invited me to visit their farm. So most of the time, my field work is actually were in the field. Let me just show you something as well, if you don't mind. Here. Oh, sorry. Can I share something here? Maybe. Sorry, I don't know where is it. Anyway, I don't need to. Sorry, if I this round. So I mean, most of my fieldworks in a Penong farm, engaging with a very informal setting. I usually in the Penong way of cultivation, they build a settle in a small cottage like hut in their farm. So usually when I went to the field, I asked permission to take notes and do observation. I mentioned early that I came from the farmer background on lowland areas. Actually, I offer my help growing the rice and cassava. Along the way, during that informal setting, I insert, I explore my question, why you growing this crop? Why you growing cassava? Where is the market? And start to learn from that setting and allow me taking note with relaxed way of, as a researcher, I feel that it's actually I bring a gap a bit smaller. I don't want to dominate the a way of it's giving time for them to interact in a relaxed setting and respond in interactive way. That is something is my way that I work with the Penong communities in my study side. And sometimes, during the lunch break, because usually people going to the farming labor exchange, if you have the same story in the upland region in Myanmar or Indonesia, etc. Because in my area, people using helping each other in that. So it's not just meeting with this particular household, but it allow me to interact with different household in the farming reciprocities. And sometimes they took initiative to tell me the story. I don't even start my question. They sometimes sitting in a lunch break and telling, oh, this is land that belonged to my past ancestor. Now I have an issue to protect because what we call the plantation company is actually now taking some piece of our land. So I start to take note from that because I really asking them, I want to learn from them in that way. It's allowed what we call genuine response. I mean, in the case of Cambodia, talking about land issue is very difficult as well because the state is also watching you when you are a researcher. They're a bit worried. So talking with the indigenous group at their field is being away from the state as well. People telling a story from their heart. So this is something I see, but I would like to stop here and then I'm happy to really talk more as well later on.
Okay, thank you, sir. Seems like your answer about the fieldwork practice is that like you are not just going to, as a researcher, with bringing the Western theory or just academic theory from outside, or the legal rights that you bring to talk to them directly, but you go to the fieldwork and try to making a very informal conversation first, and then try to make them feel that you are here not to control them, not to force them to do something, but this is to just to make a conversation, not a one-way communication as a researcher outside, right? So this is the way to deal with the equally conversation, to have equal conversation with you and the local communities. And then I can see that you try to bring them to speak about the customary rights on the land, not just the legal rights, like a law and protection from the state government, but this is to let them say about their own perspective on land management and customary right on practice. So this is quite similar to Wiwik questions on like a Bali traditional irrigation system, that you try to bring those traditional irrigation system back to protect the land. So I think this conversation can go to Wiwik in order to respond to your practice as dealing in the international team and as a member of the Bali, working to try to bringing the traditional irrigation system back to work in UNESCO. So do you have something to say about this, Wiwik?
Yeah. When I joined the team that write the nomination dossier, I didn't have a background in like agricultural studies, or my knowledge of Subak is just like, it's the rice field, there's a farmer, there's the system that we have that we're proud of as a Balinese. So I don't really know, the academic definition of what Subak is. But I had the opportunity to work with these prominent scholar, anthropologists, international scholars, right? From agriculture, from multidisciplines. And that's where I kind of like learned. Once the site was nominated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, this beautiful management plan that we wrote in the nomination dossier didn't take effect. It was ineffective. And we were like, why is this not working? And along the way, talking with farmers, having connection with them, like Sarou mentioned, we built this strong relationship after working with them for a while. We learned that what we did, we give them a top-down approach in the management system instead of acknowledging them that they are, they live there for generations, they know how to manage their land and their system. So in terms of decolonizing this research, I did a photo voice project in 2019. And I always have this in my head that there's this idea that whenever there's a scholar coming to, say, a village or the rice field in my case, they always say, tell us what to do. Like, you're the expert. Tell us what to do. We have issues, we have problems. And I came there and I went there and I kind of have this idea like, no, I want to learn from you. I want to study what you're doing. Like, your practice have existed for 1,000 years. I want to know how you manage that. I want to see what went wrong now when we have these UNESCO World Heritage Site. So we worked with Photo Voice International. The idea was to give them camera, all these local farmers, from the age of 70 to the age of 17, men and women. We invited them to this meeting and we give them camera and we say like, take photos. We want to learn your work, your livelihood, you know. And it's very interesting because in the beginning of our project, when we introduce what we're trying to do, what we're doing right now, and we want to get them involved and participate, we ask them, can you draw us, you know, what subak is? We give them a paper, we give them colors. We ask them to like mix group, like, you know, old farmers, young peoples in the area, and they start drawing. And it's very much interesting because the way they define themselves is the way all these scholars define what subak is. And we have to ask them like, no, I want you to tell us who you are, what you are doing based on what you're doing every day, not what other people keep telling you what you are. And in that pictures, they didn't draw themselves. They draw the landscape, they draw the trees, the water and everything. It's like, where are you? You're the farmers, you make this happen. It's like, where are you? And they're like, oh, they're laughing. They're kind of like, oh, you're right. We give them camera. We tell them, please take photos of the things that's concerning for you that you want people to know. At first, they were like, they never have camera in their life. They don't know how to use it. They don't want to take it to the rice fields because they don't want to get it dirty. We really have to force them like, no, destroy the camera. Take as many photos as you want because we want to see from your perspective. And we didn't have like a big research questions. Like, you know, we only have like, we just want to know how it is the World Heritage impacted your life. That's it. And then from their photos, we had it for like 6 months program, which because of COVID expanded into 2 years. From these photos, we come up with, you know, they come out with 7 teams that this is what we think what's important. So they were like voicing the concern and the, like, you know, the perspective that they say, this is what we want people to know. And a lot of those themes, for me personally, as the one that kind of like involved in this nomination dossier, I was pretty surprised, for example, knowing like, oh, I always thought that this subak is democratic, the women and men are like working equally, but then no, women carry the burden or like, you know, extra burden, or the importance of having a road, right? Because as you know, when we nominate the site, we said we're not going to build roads because the moment there are access to the site, then tourism industry was just going to go in and then urbanization is going to happen. We're not going to have the roads. And the farmers like, well, no, we need the roads. We want to carry our harvest, not on our back, because that's killing us, you know, back and forth. We want to have access of a little minivan where, you know, you can carry the harvest to our house and stuff like that. So it's I think it's very important to listen to the community and to get them involved and not just making them as a subject to our research, you know, because they can also be the participant.
Thank you. It seems like there's some question raising from the participants. Questions on when we talk about the dominant position in the fieldwork, we should think about the gender equality, right? So I think Wiwik and Hilary can respond on your experience. Like for Wiwik, you have 2 levels of working in field. So the one level is about national and international team working in Bali. So you are as a part of international, you have your local scholars and working with international team, and you are a female scholars working in you know, a national level. So could you respond on that kind of issues? Gender equality or academic as a local scholar working in this field. Do you see any inequality or how to respond on that? If there's some inequality.
Yeah, there certainly are. There are 2 stories I want to share. The first one, when I first started as a research assistant, I was working with foreign researchers. We're doing research to hotels, trying to see their water consumption. And I think maybe it was not familiar for people to have local researchers and a woman, because when we go to hotels, I have trouble accessing the hotel. I got stopped at the gate. You're not allowed to enter. And there are points where they think that I am the babysitter because the researchers had a little toddler at that time. And I have to keep saying like, no, I'm an assistant researcher. And they just ignored me. I was like, okay. But at the same time, I also have access then to have these conversations with the other staff worker because they think that I'm also a staff, like I'm also just a babysitter. So I have this, data not from the main source, but also from the staff, like, how the water consumption in their hotel and stuff like that. And another story is with the Subak research that I did. It's like I was sort of like the only woman at that time. I didn't have background in agriculture. I came from political science at that time. So there's are always like these, when I go into a meeting, they don't look at you like, oh, you're just the assistant, like, and I'm like, okay, taking notes. All right. But it gave me opportunities to observe and listen carefully, like, the power imbalances. There are moments when we go to like meetings with government officials where you're not even given a chance to say something because you're not there, right? But it has also changed. It has also changed in the last 10 years where people started to recognize there are like, local researchers and they're female. And like Sarou mentioned, because of these strong connections with the local community now, and I worked there for more than a decade, so like every time I go there, people recognize me. Oh, yes, Wiwik, you're the researchers, you're like, and I think it is also important that these changes happened just by changing slightly your, I work as a research assistant, so you have these hierarchies, power imbalances. And now I work with foreign researchers. I work like, international collaborations where they look at you like as partner, making you equally there. So yeah, I think it's really important. Slight changes, just in terms of the term, but it gives you like a very huge impact on how you do things, including to local community. Like you don't go there and just like, hey, I want to interview you or I want to do a survey on you, but we want to work with you. We want to work with you, want to collaborate with you. That's I think very important.
Thank you. So Hilary, do you want to respond?
Sure, that was a great response. And I think similarly, being a woman has enabled me to access certain spaces. So for example, land activist spaces are often very obviously male spaces because I'm a white woman. I don't have the same experience. Everyone notices when I come into a room or ask me what I think, I get referred to as an expert because of my race. But at the same time, I have access to certain spaces because of my gender. So whether that's like helping in the kitchen to prepare the meals for the activist meeting, and those are spaces of different types of conversation than what's happening in the meeting room, right? Or it's a different set of relationships. One thing that was also coming up for me in some of the other colleagues' reflections is the urban-rural divide in a lot of this research. So in some cases with collaborators from urban parts of Myanmar, they sometimes have a more challenging time in the village than I do because of some of the assumptions and power dynamics and even animosities between urban and rural spaces. So maybe that's another set of power relations that cuts across our work. And I know I'm going out of scope, but I also wanted to say something about religion because that's a big factor in my work. Because of how I look, I'm always assumed to be Christian. And I work with Christian communities and I'm always welcomed into church. And that's a sort of way my grandfather was a Christian minister, though I'm not practicing. And so it's interesting how the assumption that I'm Christian has allowed me to access certain research spaces that I might not have been able to access otherwise, even though, in Buddhist communities, I also attend Buddhist rituals and Buddhist temples, but never with the assumption of belief. So yeah, those are quite different sort of spaces of positionality across that line as well.
Thank you, Hilary. I never think about the religions in this, like while doing field work, and then this series come up. Yeah, I have some experience on that too. Thank you for raising this. This is very interesting. Yeah. So I think we have so many questions from the participant. But before we go to that question, can I hear something from Ajahn Apisom? Because your case study is, it's like international global development projects, the mega project, working with the various communities.
Okay, so yeah, I think I'm a little bit different from the rest of the panelists. I'm economist. So in economics, we are challenging the colonial notion of economic growth as well. So let me share some of the slides. I'm ecological economist, right? So we have thinking differently. For example, this is in neoclassical economics, when you study economics, right, you only looking at the market transaction or something like that. But in the reality, there are a lot of outside of the market, like social, natural capital, or something like that, or cultural. So in ecological economic, we took a broader and integrative approach. So we're looking at the role of social, ecological, and human capital that contribute to the well-being of the people. We are not talking about growth, economic growth, right? And you can see that, there are several books that criticize the mainstream and dominant economic thinking. Like, for example, the famous one recently is like donut economics. Many probably have heard about that. But then before, like a book like Small is Beautiful or something like that. And one of the chapter that Schumacher wrote is about Buddhist economics. So this is another way of thinking of economic from Buddhist perspectives, which very different from Western way of thinking of economics development or activities or something like that. So yeah, so there are very several books in there. So my field work, like I said, so I'm trying to show that the river are much more than just economic developments, right? Somebody are talking about, like, ask the people to draw the maps. We have some cultural mapping, and we are asking the villagers and the participants, like, how the river mean to you, right? So it's not just only energy production or something like that. There are many other ways to look at the river. And on the right hand side, you can see this tapestries. We asking the one of the community, which is Thai Lu in Chiang Khong, to weave that story of change. So they're talking about, in the past, from the bottom to the up, right? In the past, there are lots of fish in the river, and full of sediment, and they have thrive and sustain their life for many years using a subsistence economy, growing rice on the river bank, something like that. But something in the recent year happened. Especially the war in Laos, they remember the helicopter, flew by their village, and there are lots of fire in this area, and there is a channel. Channelization, river channelization, because the country Thailand want to promote international trade with China, so they want to dredge the river, and then there is a lot of dam built in the area. But after all of the recent developments, the livelihoods of the community has been depleted, something like that. So my role as an economist is trying to do some valuation and trying to put into if I were to the valuation into the monetary terms, like if we count this as economic capitals, there is some values. of course, we're not commodifying this, but we're just showing that there is a value in economic and local community or local economy also contribute to the well-being and the food security in the region. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. So how many communities that you have worked with in your project? This is for my question.
We have worked in many community under the LuceSEA grant, which the collaboration between Mae Fah Luang Chiang Mai University and also Sopiak also led a project in Cambodia. But in Thailand, we did in my area in the northern region, we did 4 communities along the Mekong River, and Chiang Mai University led by Ajahn Chayan are doing another project in Songkram River. Songkram River is another big tributary river in the northeastern region. So trying to account for the economic activities at the local level, the impact, and also we are looking at traditional ecological knowledge as a way that the community can participate in the decision makings. Yeah.
So this is kind of a cross national boundary project, right? So it seems like you're working between like Laos, communities in Laos, Thai, and Cambodia who share the same Mekong River. So
Right.
It seems like you're decolonizing in this term is like to eliminate the boundaries of the nation.
Yeah.
The restrict people within one countries. So to work with the common property, the river as a common property and share.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, reclaiming the commons. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Ajahn Apisom. So we have some long, at least 14 questions. Hopefully we can answer within. We have around 22 minutes now before we end this seminar. So I will go quickly. I think we already answered some of the questions here. There might be some that like the first question is about like what do you feel is the most challenging thing about doing fieldwork, and did you have to live with the local community to conduct this research, and how can you ensure your safety during your studies? So I think everyone has experience on that. You want to answer? Anyone? Maybe Hilary, or you mentioned that you are in your area is very in the conflict area, right, in Myanmar. So you might be the most challenging one.
Maybe. I think many of us work in rural places, and one theme, I think it's not new actually, but maybe it's a commonality across us, is that relationships really matter for our access to spaces and, to conducting work that we feel is ethical and also that emerges from local experience. So every place that I've worked, both inside Myanmar and now on the border areas in Thailand and India, because many farmers have fled since the military coup, those are through sort of chains of relationships that I have where I've been invited, I meet someone somewhere and they invite me to the next place. And I think those relationships are also what make me feel safe in my research. Actually feel much less safe or more cognizant of security now that I work in Northeast India because I don't speak Hindi or Mizo. So I'm very dependent on relationships with the Myanmar diaspora there to help me navigate the complicated sort of political structures and geography of the place. So that's just one reflection.
Thank you. So I think the next questions can go to the speakers. This one is quite related to our previous discussion. She said, I'm curious about the way the panel members have used local theories and knowledge systems in doing their research work in both the physical and social science? Have there been conscious efforts to use these local theories in their previous and current works? I think this is kind of response in Sarou and Wiwik, right? When you talk about the customary lands rights and the local practice of the irrigation system.
Sorry, could you repeat the question again? Because actually, I'm trying to see where is the question as well.
Third one, like she's curious about the way the panel members have used local theories and knowledge systems in doing their research work in both physical and social science. Do you
Right.
have any experience to use the local theories? I think this in this question is to respond, or do you incorporate the local practice in your research, or at least in the policy that you are to make?
Yeah. So you how to say because as I apply ethnography approach in doing my research, so I spent times living in the village. Honestly, I did mention earlier that most of my fieldwork actually in the Sweden field or in the cultivation field of the Penang population, Penang villager. So my way of interact with the Penang villager is actually to know their schedule of farming. Honestly, I every morning or early morning or evening time, I often interact with, oh, where is you going next? Let's say tomorrow, where you are doing your field or etc. So, and sometimes the Penang villagers actually come to me telling them, oh, they are going to do the field cultivation in the next day. So this kind is more informal interaction, and then I adapt the how to say daily practice to really be a relationship with the Penang, at the same time can access to the information and data. Yeah.
Thank you. There's more question to this one to Sarou and to Apisom. So to Sarou first. The question is, while you were working at Bunong, what challenges did you meet regarding communication with Bunong leaders? I used to meet some misunderstanding when I worked at Ratanakiri. I communicated with authority and I thought that it was enough, but the community leaders there had more power to interrupt my research. Do you have any issues?
Yeah. So let me take a two level here. For me, doing the fieldwork in Cambodia now, it's very difficult as well for researcher to do. You have to sought the permission from the state authorities in order to conduct a fieldwork at some certain villages at the rural area, for example. So I received a permission letter from the government as well, from the Ministry of Environment. But at the same time, I also really went through what we call the social and hierarchical structure of the Penang community as well, understanding I kind of announcing myself that I'm doing the field work in their village, and through the connection through the indigenous leader or even the community as well, they can spread my presence in the village. In terms of communication, I also try. I was thinking very in early stage when I decided to do my fieldwork in Mandulkiri. I forgot to mention as well. I also have a Penang assistant who actually can speak the language, the language. Honestly, I got benefit from working in these communities for some time long ago in 2008 and 2009. I think long time ago, where I developed the Penang language from there. I did learning Penang as well in order to really make sure that I understand a bit as well going to their village. But this kind of the Penang research assistant really build my relationship as well, not just me who actually go there to introduce myself as a researcher, but the Penang assistant who understand the geography, teaching me a lot about the culture, how to interact with the villagers, And this is one way to actually how to say in terms of challenge we can solve a little bit from there in terms of misunderstanding of communication, etc. Yeah.
Thank you. And this is to Apisom. During your research, have you found any policy was made to help community and environment impact caused by dam and upper Mekong?
Yeah, yes, there is some policy that trying to mitigate the impact of dams operations. For example, we're talking about data sharings, but at the moment the policy was made at the country level. So I'm working at the community level. Sometimes the data are not coming into community in a timely manner. Like it's like delay or something like that, or sometimes the data is not very useful or something like that. So we are also thinking to develop our own data sharings among community members. That one way of reducing mitigating the impact of the dam operations, because it's the water flowing, it's fluctuate daily, so it's impacting, like for example the woman who collecting the guy, which is a seaweed in the river or something like that. So there is some attempts trying to mitigate, but we as a researcher also are trying to promote another energy source that like for example floating solar, that we think that it could be a win-win situations for Laos and for Thailand and for the region as well, instead of building a new dams. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So anyone want to respond previous questions? If not, I'll go to another questions. There's a long list. So this one is quite, this is quite deal with our seminar directly. I am currently into ethnography, and positionality is one factor that is primarily being considered when doing ethnography. It is important, especially when doing fieldwork, more than the acknowledgement of one's existing positions. For example, education background, socioeconomic background, and it is also important to place oneself in a proper perspective. My question to any of the panelists is, how do you ensure that your existing positions does not affect in any way your perspective towards the field that you are researching upon? Do you distance your existing position to that of the people in the fieldwork you are researching on? I mean, this is like questions about your awareness of your position when you are doing fieldwork. Anyone of you?
I can try, but happy to have everyone put the idea as well. So throughout my research fieldwork, the implementation of my fieldwork, I am to conduct my data collection in an honest and transparent way. At the early stage of my fieldwork, the some Phnom villager confused about my role, and my presence at their village as well. To be honest, some assume that I am an NGO worker, so because as I am used to work in that region, and some people thought that I am also a journalist, try to understand what's happening there. When I introduced them as a student, a PhD student, some Phnom people also confused that I am part of the state land governing program, because in Cambodia, I don't know whether you heard a little bit that in 2013, 2012 and 2013, before the national election time, the Prime Minister Hun Sen tried to gain his popularity. So he actually include the student to be part of land titling program called Order Sarou 1. And actually, the student went to the upland frontier to measure the land with the working with the state official at the time. So when I actually introduced them as the student, they thought that I am also part of the government land titling program. So I took a lot of time as well to understand, to really allow them to understand, I'm a PhD student, and explain about the purpose of my research project and as a part of university requirement. And honestly, I also remind my research assistant as well to introduce themselves as a part of my research project, even though they are Punong there as a research assistant. But this kind of honest and transparency way is allow me to really open the discussion in a productive way, where the Punong understand that the research is a part of university requirement, and it's easy to access to research participant in that way. I could say, yeah.
Thank you. So any of you want to respond? I think what some of you already said about your position and your awareness when you're talking in other issues. But if you want to add, just let me know. If not, it seems like the Wiwik, you have one more question. I am curious to know, in your opinion, how can the revitalization of traditional Balinese approaches to rice field management contribute to the broader decolonization movement in Indonesia and beyond?
I think what I can learn from the Subak or working with the farmers is their resilience and dealing with the challenges that they're facing while, conducting agricultural or farming. I remember one story when I went there with government official to one of the temples that's related to the rice field, and the water at the fountains was, they were not running. And the government official was very, very surprised, and they plan to invite all these engineers, technical expertise from university to figure out what was going on, that we need to bring the water back. And I remember the conversation that we have with the priest at that temple. He was confused and he said, what are you talking about? This is the moon when the water was not supposed to run. And, you just have to wait, and then he told us that in a couple of weeks, the water will run again. And I remember the hecticness with the government officials trying to figure out all these technical engineering materials that, that will help to restore the water. And in 2 weeks, the water returned. So the priests were like, I really have no idea what you're talking about, what you're worrying about. I think the way this, if we recognize this local traditional knowledge and how they have existed for generations, it's a good way to also acknowledge the importance of traditional or customary systems, right? Right now, I was also involved in a workshop where we're trying to combine between traditional knowledge and also modern science, because of, the climate change, the weather, the rain pattern changes, and they want to combine this knowledge and how they can predict when the planting season should happen. I would say by acknowledging that they have a way of doing things, even though they're not publishing in academic journal, doesn't mean that their knowledge are not worth it. So yeah, I'm just hoping, if we can have these farmers be empowered again, because they have existed again for a millennia with their system. And if we can help as much as we can as researchers because of these, current issues that's happening in the world, then we can have a more sustainable livelihood.
Thank you. I think we have about 5 more minutes to answer. So this is going to be maybe the last question before we going around again to ask you to wrap up what you think about this seminar to response. So this is the last question. Have you, in your fieldwork, been involved in conflict or violence related to the marginalized populations or the encounters with state authority? So this is quite common that we might facing in our fieldwork, and then you can respond maybe if you have experience on this. Apisom, have you ever? So I think you might be,
Of
because this
course.
is so this is very marginal. And Hilary as well. This is marginal zone and then marginalized people that's living there, dealing with the project.
Yeah, I have been once, like during the Thailand declared the martial war, right? During the coup d'etat, like they not allow people to get together. But I give a presentation on the anti-dams days or something like that about the alternatives developments. So there's some military coming in, but we explain what we are doing. We are not really. We are doing academic exercise or something like that. So yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, but I did once experience encountering the state agency people. Yeah.
And Hilary, do you have?
Yeah, thanks. I think a lot about violence and risk these days, and maybe one thing I would share is just it again goes back, I think, to trust and collaboration. I'm often working in teams, and it's not possible for me to accurately assess risk for everybody. So having a dialogue about that among the team, and yeah, and also trusting people to assess their own desire to participate or practices that can keep people more safe. Yeah, I think I've always worked in a place where there's a specter of violence, but in the last few years, it's become much more acute and a much more explicit discussion that recurs throughout the research process, and not just research, the fieldwork or travel process or presentation. I think presentation process is also, and communication is quite important to consider, to Apisom's point.
Okay, we have 3 more minutes, and I think this time, I'll give you a time to say something very short, like to respond on after you have discussed in this seminar, and like say something about your response on decolonizing practice, that you think this is very important, and then like you can share your experience for the audience. It seems like many of the audience are students who are going to the fieldwork soon, and then they just want to know like how to deal with your positionality and your decolonizing practice in your own way. You can maybe start from Sarou again, and then go to Wiwik and Hilary and Apisom.
Sorry, can I clarify a little bit as well? It's overall, how to say, conclusion or from the experience I'm doing the fieldwork?
Yeah, just say that like what's in to respond on like what do you think about the important thing to being decolonizing practice in your own experience and fieldwork. I think this is to share your experience to the audience, because everyone has a different way to deal with decolonizing.
Yes, I mean, thank you. I mean being in mind as a researcher, I think it is very important for us, not just the knowledge production, but what you are doing here. Also want to see something that is actually beneficial to the community, etc. And I think how to say decolonizing methodology or etc. is actually also a kind of, how to say it, I'm coming from working closely with the community people. Like this is based on ethnography approach, and being critical ethnography is allow us to really thinking about decolonizing methodology in mind. And that is actually especially study about the land issues and the livelihood of the indigenous group. I think the context of decolonizing is very important. It's a short word for me on that, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. So Wiwik.
Yeah, I would say be open to changes, because as a researchers you have your plan. When you go to the field, it might not go as planned. So be open to changes, be mindful to local knowledge, local practice, be respectful to them, and always keep in mind that once you're done with your research and when you leave, if you're not part of that community, just be mindful not to leave, not to create conflict afterwards, to make everybody safe.
Thank you. Yes, yes. And Hilary.
Yeah, a couple of thoughts for students, and thanks for all the great questions in the chat. One is I often go back to Donna Haraway's idea of situated knowledges, so that the positionality or partiality of our knowledge informs how we see the world. I was thinking of this with one of the questions of sort of like, how can we take our positionality out of it? Because we never can. So I actually learned a lot, like listening from all of you. And I think that this dialogue across different positions or perspective is really important for cultivating a more robust or holistic set of knowledges in Southeast Asian studies. So thank you, my collaborators, panelists. The other two things maybe to think about for students is that I really echo this emphasis on collaboration as a decolonial practice. And I think we've talked about different aspects, and just to point out that can take really different forms in different stages of research. So I saw some questions about, were the topics of your study be, generated from the local community, or how do you share your results back? One thing that's helped me is just to disaggregate collaboration and think about it in different stages of the life cycle of different projects. And similarly, maybe acknowledging that not all projects serve all ends. So especially for students who feel the pressure to write an academic thesis using certain types of theory or certain types of jargon, maybe I'm giving permission for that type of work, which is very important for credentialing. And we need many more Southeast Asians with PhDs, right? So I really support this type of work and acknowledge that there's certain types of things that have to happen to get a PhD, and that there's also a lot of space in research practice to do different types of work. So my team and I just did a graphic novel, which I learned so much from, and just allowing space for different projects which serve different sort of audiences or decolonial objectives. So thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, Ajahn Apisom.
Yeah, I kind of agree about the positionality that we cannot avoid it, but that we have to recognize and acknowledge and be mindful about it. And one way is about cross-cultural language training prior to the field, because there are words explain the mental understanding, like for example, we don't find good words, the exact translation sometimes. So if you learn the local language and culture, that would be helpful, and engaging the community early on, starting from the problem identifications, and then research design, and something like that. So co-production of knowledge, that is very important, and also a validation, like dissemination of the results, and interpretation, like if you don't you are not sure, you can ask, like, this is the interpretation is correct or not, something like that. So I think participatory approach is very helpful, especially if you're working with the local communities. Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. I think we are run out of time, but before we leaving, the organizer kindly asked the participants to helping them to improve the seminar by, filling the webinar survey form, which appears in the chat room now. You can go in the chat room and then click the link. This is very helpful for the organizer. And then the next seminar is showing now, I think on the screen, not now. Next, please. Yes. Next is yeah, I think it's on the screen. So hope you all enjoy our discussion, and then we hope we can see again somewhere in Southeast Asia. Yes, and thank you very much for attending. Yeah, I think this is the end. Thank you very much, everyone, for
Thank
attending.
you.
ขอบคุณครับ
Thank you.
Khop khun krap.
ขอบคุณครับ
Bye.